If you would permit me, just for a moment, to speak to something that has been pressing upon my heart with an urgency I can no longer contain. I have walked alongside thousands of souls in my years, sat with them in their darkest hours, listened to their confessions, their fears, their secret hopes. And I have observed patterns that repeat themselves across generations, across continents, across the vast tapestry of human experience. And what I am about to share with you today is not something I offer lightly. This is not entertainment. This is not distraction. This is a message that I believe, with every fiber of my being, the entire planet should see today. You are here for a reason, not by accident, not by chance. If you are watching this right now, if these words have found their way to you in this precise moment of your life, it is because something within you recognizes that the world as you have known it is shifting beneath your feet. You have felt it, haven't you? That strange sensation that reality itself is becoming more fluid, more uncertain, more charged with possibility and danger all at once. You are not imagining this. You are not alone in this perception. And what I am about to reveal to you in the next hour and a half will reorganize the way you see everything that is happening on this planet right now. This is not a message of doom, though it carries weight. This is not a message of false hope, though it carries light. This is a message of recognition, of remembering something your soul already knows, but your mind has been trained to forget. And I ask you, before we go any further, to do something that might seem unusual in this age of constant scrolling and fractured attention. I ask you to stay with me until the very end of this transmission, because what I am about to share builds upon itself layer by layer, and if you leave before the final piece is placed, you will miss the revelation that could change not only your life, but the lives of everyone you touch. Let me establish something from the very beginning, not to boast, but to give you context for why I speak with such certainty. I have spent decades studying the invisible architecture of human consciousness, the patterns that govern how we create our reality, the ancient wisdom traditions that understood what modern society has forgotten. I have worked with people from every walk of life, from the most desperate to the most privileged, and I have seen the same truth emerge again and again. We are living in a time of unprecedented choice, a moment in human history where the collective consciousness of this planet stands at a crossroads unlike any we have faced before. And here is where I must segment this message, because not everyone who stumbles upon these words is ready to hear what follows. This is specifically for you if you have been feeling a growing sense of urgency, a knowing that something massive is shifting in the collective field of human experience. This is for you if you have been waking up at strange hours with thoughts that don't seem to be entirely your own, insights that feel like they are being downloaded from somewhere beyond your individual mind. This is for you if you have been noticing synchronicities multiplying in your life, if the veil between the visible and invisible worlds seems to be thinning, if you feel simultaneously more alive and more uncertain than you have ever felt before. If that describes you, then you are exactly where you need to be. And what I am about to share will feel less like new information and more like a confirmation of something you have been sensing but could not quite articulate. Now, I want you to consider something with me. I want you to imagine for a moment that everything you have been taught about how reality works is not wrong exactly, but incomplete. Imagine that you have been given a map of the world that only shows the surface, the visible terrain, but completely omits the underground rivers, the invisible currents, the electromagnetic fields, the energetic ley lines that actually determine how everything flows. You've been navigating with an incomplete map, and that is not your fault. That is by design. Because here is the truth that the entire planet needs to see today. We are not living through random chaos. We are living through a carefully orchestrated awakening and, simultaneously, a carefully orchestrated attempt to prevent that awakening. These two forces are colliding right now in this very moment, and every single human being on this planet is caught in the crossfire, whether they realize it or not. Let me open this mystery slowly, the way one might descend into a deep lake, allowing your eyes to adjust to each new level of depth. On the surface, what do we see? We see division. We see conflict. We see nations turning against nations, communities fragmenting along every possible fault line, families torn apart by differences in belief, perception, and understanding. We see systems that once seemed stable, now revealing themselves to be fragile, corrupt, built on foundations of sand. We see information and disinformation swirling together in such a chaotic dance that many people have simply given up trying to discern truth from falsehood. This is what we see on the surface. And if you stop there, if you only read the headlines and absorb the narrative that is being fed to you through conventional channels, you will come to one conclusion. The world is falling apart, and there is nothing you can do about it. But I am here to tell you that this conclusion, while understandable, is the greatest trap of our time. Because beneath the surface chaos, something else entirely is happening, something that those who benefit from your fear and confusion desperately do not want you to see. Let me ask you a question, and I want you to really sit with this. When in human history have we ever had the ability that we have right now for an individual person sitting in their home to reach millions of other souls with a message? When have we ever had access to the accumulated knowledge of our entire species at our fingertips? When have we ever been able to connect with like-minded individuals across the entire planet, forming networks of consciousness that transcend all the old boundaries of geography, nationality, and cultural conditioning? Never. This has never existed before. And this is not an accident. You see, there is a pattern that repeats throughout history, throughout the sacred texts, throughout the mystery traditions of every culture. It is the pattern of the great revealing, the apocalypse, which does not mean destruction as we have been taught, but rather unveiling, the removal of the veil, the moment when what has been hidden is brought into the light. And we are living in that moment right now. But here is where it gets interesting. where the plot thickens, where the mystery deepens. Because this unveiling, this great revealing, is not happening to you. It is not something being done to humanity from the outside. It is something that is happening through you, through us, through the collective awakening of human consciousness itself. And there are forces, both seen and unseen, that have a vested interest in making sure this awakening does not reach critical mass. Now, before you dismiss this as conspiracy theory or paranoid thinking, I want you to consider something. I want you to use your own discernment, your own observation, your own experience. Have you noticed how every time humanity seems to be on the verge of a breakthrough, on the verge of coming together, on the verge of recognizing our fundamental unity, something happens to divide us again? A new crisis emerges, a new enemy is identified, a new fear is activated. This is not random. This is pattern, and pattern reveals intelligence. Pattern reveals intention. But here is what they did not count on. Here is the variable that was not included in their calculations. They did not account for the fact that consciousness itself is evolving. They did not account for the fact that more and more human beings are beginning to see through the manipulation, to recognize the patterns, to wake up from the trance of separation and fear that has kept us controllable for so long. And this is why I say the entire planet should see this today, because we are at a tipping point. We are at a moment where the collective consciousness of humanity could go in one of two directions, and the direction we choose will determine not just the next few years, but the next phase of human evolution itself. Let me take you deeper. Let me show you something that exists beneath even that layer of understanding. There is an ancient teaching, found in various forms across different wisdom traditions, that speaks of the nature of reality itself. It tells us that the physical world, the world of form and matter that we perceive with our five senses, is not the primary reality. It is a projection, a reflection, a manifestation of something deeper, something more fundamental. That deeper reality is consciousness itself, awareness, the field of infinite potential from which all things arise. Now, modern quantum physics has begun to confirm what the mystics have always known, that the observer affects the observed, that consciousness plays a fundamental role in collapsing the wave function of probability into the particle of manifestation, that reality is far more participatory and far less fixed than we have been taught to believe. What does this mean in practical terms? It means that the world you see around you, the reality you experience, is not separate from your consciousness. It is intimately connected to it. It is, in a very real sense, a reflection of the dominant patterns of thought, belief, and emotion that exist within the collective field of human awareness. And this is where everything changes, because if reality is participatory, if consciousness is creative, if we are not merely victims of circumstance, but active participants in the manifestation of our collective experience, then everything we have been told about our powerlessness is a lie. Not a mistake, a lie. A deliberate inversion of truth designed to keep you small, to keep you compliant, to keep you from recognizing the magnificent creative power that exists within you. And this is the message that the entire planet needs to see today. You are not powerless. You have never been powerless. You have been hypnotized into believing in your powerlessness, and that hypnosis has been so thorough, so complete, so reinforced by every institution and authority structure in our society that even suggesting you might have power feels dangerous, feels arrogant, feels like delusion. But I am here to tell you that the delusion is not in recognizing your power. The delusion is in denying it. Now, I can feel some of you resisting this. I can feel the objections rising in your mind. If I have so much power, why is my life still difficult? Why is there still suffering? Why can't I just manifest whatever I want? These are good questions, important questions, and they deserve real answers, not spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity. The truth is that you do have power, but that power has been fragmented, scattered, divided against itself. You have been taught to use your creative consciousness in ways that work against you rather than for you. You have been programmed with beliefs that limit you, with fears that paralyze you, with desires that distract you from what you truly want. And more than that, you are not operating in isolation. You are part of a collective field, and that collective field has its own momentum, its own patterns, its own accumulated weight of belief and expectation. Changing your individual consciousness is powerful, but it is not the whole picture. We must also address the collective consciousness, the shared field of human awareness that we are all swimming in. And this is where we come to the heart of the matter. This is where we arrive at the reason why this message must reach as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. We are in a race, not against time exactly, but against the solidification of a particular timeline, a particular version of reality that is being actively constructed and reinforced by those who understand these principles and are using them for purposes of control rather than liberation. Every day, through the media you consume, through the education system, through the economic structures, through the political theater, you are being fed a narrative about who you are, what is possible, what you should fear, what you should desire, how you should think. This narrative is not neutral. It is not accidental. It is designed to keep you in a particular state of consciousness, a state that makes you predictable, manageable, exploitable. But here is the beautiful thing. Here is the crack in their plan. Here is the light that is streaming through the darkness. You can choose differently. At any moment, you can withdraw your consent from the narrative that has been imposed upon you. You can begin to question everything you have been taught to accept without examination. You can start to reclaim your attention, your energy, your creative power, and direct it toward a different vision, a different possibility, a different world. And when enough of us do this, when we reach a critical mass of awakened consciousness, the entire structure of the old world will collapse. Not through violence or revolution, but through simple irrelevance. It will collapse because we will have stopped feeding it with our belief, our compliance, our participation. This is what they fear more than anything. This is why there is such a desperate attempt right now to keep humanity divided, distracted, afraid, and asleep. Because they know that if we wake up, if we remember who we really are, if we recognize our collective power, their game is over. Now, I want to be very clear about something, because this is where many people get confused or fall into traps of their own making. This is not about fighting against anything. This is not about making enemies of other human beings, even those who are playing roles in the old system. This is not about anger, resentment, or revenge. This is about something far more powerful. This is about withdrawal and redirection. It is about consciously choosing where you place your attention, your energy, your creative power. It is about building the new rather than fighting the old. Because here is another truth that the wisdom traditions have always taught. What you resist persists. What you fight against, you strengthen. The very act of opposition creates a polarity that feeds the thing you oppose. So the path forward is not through opposition, it is through transcendence. It is through rising to a higher level of consciousness where the old conflicts simply dissolve because they are no longer relevant to the reality you are creating. Let me give you a practical example of what this looks like. Imagine that you have been watching the news every day, absorbing story after story of conflict, crisis, and catastrophe. You feel anxious, helpless, angry. This is a natural response to the information you are consuming. But what is actually happening energetically? You are feeding your consciousness into a particular narrative, a particular version of reality. You are reinforcing through your attention and emotional engagement the very patterns you claim to oppose. You are participating in the creation of more fear, more division, more chaos. Now imagine that you make a different choice. You consciously limit your exposure to that narrative. You stop feeding it with your attention. Instead, you begin to focus on what you want to create, what you want to experience, what kind of world you want to live in. You start to notice beauty. You start to cultivate gratitude. You start to connect with others who are also choosing a different path. You start to build in your own life and in your own community the kinds of structures and relationships and experiences that reflect the world you want to see. What happens? Your consciousness begins to shift. Your energy begins to rise. You start to experience synchronicities, opportunities, connections that were not available to you when you were locked in the frequency of fear and helplessness. And this is not just personal. This is not just about making yourself feel better. This is about changing the collective field, because every individual who makes this shift, who raises their consciousness, who chooses love over fear, unity over division, creation over destruction, is adding to the critical mass that will tip the entire planet into a new paradigm. This is not wishful thinking. This is not naive optimism. This is how consciousness works. This is how reality is created. And this is what those who want to maintain control do not want you to understand. Now, I know some of you are thinking, this sounds too simple. Surely the problems we face are more complex than just changing our consciousness. And you are right that the problems are complex. But the solution is simple. Not easy, but simple. Because all complexity arises from a fundamental error in perception, a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of reality. When you correct that error, when you shift back into alignment with truth, the complexity begins to unravel. Solutions that were invisible become obvious. Paths that were blocked become clear. This is what I have witnessed again and again in my work with individuals. Someone comes to me with a problem that seems insurmountable, a situation that appears hopeless. And as we work together to shift their consciousness, to release the beliefs and patterns that are keeping them stuck, the external situation begins to shift as well. Not through force or manipulation, but through a natural reorganization of reality in response to the change in their inner state. And what is true for individuals is true for the collective. As we change our collective consciousness, our collective reality must change as well. This is law. This is how the universe works. But here is where we must be honest about the challenges we face. Because while the principle is simple, the application requires something that has become rare in our world: sustained focus, discipline, and commitment. We live in an age of distraction. Our attention is being harvested and sold as a commodity. We are being deliberately fragmented, our consciousness scattered across 1,000 different stimuli, never resting long enough in any one place to build real power, real coherence, real creative force. This is not an accident. This is strategy, because a distracted population is a controllable population. A fragmented consciousness is a powerless consciousness. So part of the awakening, part of the great work of our time, is learning to reclaim and focus our attention. It is learning to become coherent again, integrated, whole. It is learning to resist the constant pull toward distraction and instead cultivate the ability to hold a vision, to maintain a frequency, to stay aligned with truth, even when everything around us is designed to pull us off center. This is not easy. I will not pretend it is easy, but it is necessary, and it is possible. And this is where community becomes essential, because you cannot do this alone. None of us can. We need each other. We need to connect with others who are on this path, who understand what is happening, who can support us when we falter and celebrate with us when we break through. This is why I am asking you right now to do something that might feel uncomfortable. I am asking you to share this message, not because I need the views or the validation, but because there are people in your life, people in your network who need to hear this, people who are ready, people who are waiting for permission to trust what they have been feeling, to act on what they have been knowing. You sharing this message could be the catalyst for their awakening, and their awakening contributes to the collective shift, and the collective shift is what will transform this planet. So please, if this resonates with you, if you feel the truth of what I am sharing, do not keep it to yourself. Pass it on. Plant the seed. Trust that it will find the soil where it needs to grow. And I also want to ask you to do something else. At the end of this message, I am going to pose a question, and I want you to leave your answer in the comments, not just for me, but for everyone else who will watch this. Because when we share our experiences, our insights, our struggles, we create a field of collective wisdom that supports everyone who enters it. We are building something here, not just consuming content, but creating a community, a network of awakened consciousness that can serve as a beacon for others who are still finding their way. Now, let me take you even deeper. Let me show you something that exists at the very foundation of this great shift we are experiencing. There is a reason why this is happening now. There is a reason why the awakening is accelerating at this particular moment in history. And it has to do with cycles, with the great cosmic rhythms that govern the evolution of consciousness on this planet. The ancient traditions understood this. They knew that time is not linear, but cyclical, that consciousness evolves in waves, in spirals, in great ages that rise and fall according to patterns that are written into the fabric of the cosmos itself. We are at the end of one great cycle and the beginning of another. We are in the transition, the liminal space, the threshold between worlds, and this is always the most chaotic, the most uncertain, the most dangerous, and the most pregnant with possibility. In this transition, everything that has been hidden comes to light. All the shadows, all the corruption, all the lies and manipulations that have been operating beneath the surface of our collective awareness are being exposed. This is not comfortable. This is not easy to witness. But it is necessary. Because you cannot heal what you do not acknowledge. You cannot transform what you refuse to see. The exposure of the shadow is not the problem. It is the beginning of the solution. And simultaneously, all the potential, all the gifts, all the latent capacities that have been dormant within human consciousness are beginning to activate. People are having experiences that would have been considered impossible just a generation ago. Intuition is sharpening. Psychic abilities are emerging. The capacity for direct knowing, for accessing information beyond the five senses, is becoming more common. This is not supernatural. This is natural. This is what human consciousness is capable of when it is not suppressed, when it is not limited by false beliefs and fear-based programming. And as more and more people begin to access these capacities, the old structures of control become less and less effective. Because you cannot control a population that can see through your lies, that can sense your intentions, that can access truth directly, rather than relying on external authorities to tell them what to think. This is the real threat to the old order, not political movements or social revolutions, but the simple fact of awakened consciousness spreading through the population like a benevolent virus, activating dormant capacities, dissolving false limitations, reconnecting us to our true nature and our true power. And this is why the message must spread. This is why the entire planet needs to see this today. Because we are in a window of opportunity. We are in a moment where the momentum could tip in either direction. And every person who wakes up, every person who chooses consciousness over unconsciousness, love over fear, truth over deception, adds weight to the side of liberation. You are not insignificant. Your choice matters. Your consciousness matters. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. And when you recognize this, when you step into the fullness of who you are, you become a force of nature, a catalyst for transformation, a beacon of light in a world that has been dark for far too long. Now, I want to address something that I know is present for many of you. I want to speak to the fear that arises when you begin to wake up, when you begin to see how deep the manipulation goes, how extensive the control systems are, how much of what you thought was real is actually constructed illusion. This fear is understandable. It is natural, but it is also a trap. Because the purpose of exposing the darkness is not to make you afraid. It is to make you free. When you see the bars of the cage, you can begin to find the door. When you understand the mechanism of control, you can withdraw your consent from it. But if you get stuck in the fear, if you become paralyzed by the magnitude of what you are seeing, then the awakening becomes just another form of imprisonment. You trade one set of illusions for another. You go from being unconsciously controlled to being consciously terrified, and neither state serves your liberation. So the path forward requires courage. It requires the willingness to look at the darkness without being consumed by it. It requires the ability to acknowledge the reality of the control systems while simultaneously refusing to give them power over your consciousness. This is the razor's edge. This is the narrow path, and it is the path that every awakening soul must walk. You must become, in a sense, a spiritual warrior, not fighting against others, but fighting for your own consciousness, for your own sovereignty, for your own right to think freely, to feel fully, to create consciously. And this fight is not won through aggression. It is won through presence, through awareness, through the constant practice of returning to center, to truth, to love, no matter what chaos is swirling around you. This is the work. This is the great work of our time, and it is the most important work you will ever do. Because everything else in your life, everything you create, every relationship you have, every contribution you make to the world flows from the state of your consciousness. If your consciousness is fragmented, fearful, controlled, then everything you create will reflect that. But if your consciousness is coherent, loving, free, then everything you create will reflect that instead. You are the source. You are the creator, and the world you experience is the mirror of what exists within you. This is not blame. This is not saying that you are responsible for all the suffering in the world, but it is saying that you are responsible for your response to that suffering, for the meaning you make of it, for the choices you make in the face of it. And those choices, multiplied across millions of awakening souls, will determine the future of this planet. So I am asking you to choose wisely. I am asking you to choose consciously. I am asking you to recognize the power that exists within you and to use that power in service of the highest good, not just for yourself, but for all beings. This is not a burden. This is an invitation to step into your true nature, your true purpose, your true power. And I promise you this, when you accept this invitation, when you commit to this path, your life will change in ways you cannot yet imagine. Doors will open, opportunities will appear, people will come into your life who are aligned with your highest vision. Synchronicities will multiply. You will begin to experience a flow, a grace, a sense of being supported by the universe itself. This is not magic. This is alignment. This is what happens when you stop fighting against the current of your own soul and instead surrender to its wisdom, its guidance, its love. And as you change, the world around you changes, not because you are forcing it to change, but because you are no longer participating in the patterns that were keeping it stuck. This is the great secret. This is the key that unlocks everything. You do not need to fix the world. You need to heal yourself. And as you heal, as you awaken, as you remember who you really are, the world heals with you. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is lived experience. This is what I have witnessed in my own life and in the lives of countless others who have walked this path. And this is what I want for you. This is why I am sharing this message with such urgency, with such passion, with such conviction, because I know what is possible. I know what exists on the other side of the fear, on the other side of the conditioning, on the other side of the illusion. There is a world waiting to be born, a world of beauty, of harmony, of cooperation, of love, a world where human beings live in alignment with their true nature and with the natural world, a world where technology serves consciousness rather than controlling it. A world where abundance is shared rather than hoarded. A world where every child is cherished, every elder is honored, every being is recognized as a sacred expression of the divine. This world is not a fantasy. It is a potential. It exists in the field of possibility, waiting for enough of us to hold the vision, to maintain the frequency, to choose it into manifestation. And we are closer than you think. We are closer than the news would have you believe. We are closer than the prophets of doom would have you imagine. Because the shift is not something that will happen in the future. It is happening right now, in this moment. In every moment that you choose love over fear, truth over deception, consciousness over unconsciousness. Every moment is a choice point. Every moment is an opportunity to align with the new world or to reinforce the old. And the cumulative effect of these choices, made by millions of people across the planet, is what will determine our collective future. So I am asking you, right now, in this moment, to make a choice, to choose the path of awakening, to choose the path of consciousness, to choose the path of love. Not because it is easy, not because it is comfortable, but because it is true, because it is aligned with who you really are, because it is the only path that leads to real freedom, real peace, real joy. And I am asking you to make this choice not just once, but again and again, moment by moment, day by day, until it becomes not a choice, but a way of being, until consciousness becomes your natural state, until love becomes your automatic response, until truth becomes the ground you stand on. This is the journey. This is the path. And it is the greatest adventure you will ever undertake. Because you are not just transforming yourself, you are participating in the transformation of an entire planet, an entire species, an entire paradigm of existence. You are part of the great shift. You are part of the awakening. You are part of the solution. And the entire planet needs to see this today, because we are running out of time to choose unconsciousness. The window is closing, the momentum is building, and soon, very soon, we will reach the point of no return, the moment when the collective choice becomes irreversible. I believe we will choose awakening. I believe we will choose love. I believe we will choose the new world. But that belief must be matched by action, by commitment, by the willingness to do the work, to face the shadows, to release the old patterns, to step into the unknown with courage and faith. And this is where I want to bring this message to a close. Though the journey is just beginning, I want to leave you with a practice, something you can do right now, today, to begin aligning with the shift, to begin participating consciously in the awakening. It is simple, but do not mistake simplicity for lack of power. I want you to take a moment right now to close your eyes and place your hand on your heart. Feel the beat of your own life force. Feel the miracle of your existence. And from that place of connection to your own being, I want you to ask yourself a question. What would love do? Not what would fear do? Not what would conditioning do? Not what would society expect? But what would love do? And then listen. Listen with your whole being. Listen for the answer that arises not from your thinking mind, but from the deeper wisdom of your soul. And whatever answer comes, trust it, honor it, act on it. This is how you begin. This is how you align. This is how you participate in the great shift. One choice at a time, one moment at a time, one act of love at a time. And as you do this, as you practice this, you will begin to notice changes in yourself, in your life, in the world around you. You will begin to see that you are not powerless. You have never been powerless. You have only been asleep to your power. And now you are waking up. And as you wake up, you are helping others wake up. And together, we are creating a wave of consciousness that cannot be stopped, that cannot be controlled, that cannot be denied. This is what the entire planet needs to see today. This is the message that must spread. This is the truth that will set us free. You are powerful. You are loved. You are here for a reason, and that reason is unfolding right now in this very moment. So I ask you, as we come to the end of this transmission, to make a commitment, not to me, but to yourself, to your own awakening, to your own truth, to your own power. Commit to staying conscious. Commit to choosing love. Commit to being part of the solution. And then share this message. Leave a comment below telling me what you are committing to, what you are choosing, what you are ready to create. Because your voice matters. Your choice matters. You matter. And together, we are going to change this world. Not through force, not through violence, not through revolution, but through evolution, through awakening, through love. This is the way. This is the path. This is the truth that the entire planet should see today. And now you have seen it. Now you know. Now the choice is yours. What will you do with this knowing? How will you use this power? Who will you become in service of the great shift? I trust you. I believe in you. I see the light that exists within you, even if you cannot yet see it yourself. And I am holding the vision of a world where that light shines freely, where consciousness is honored, where love is the guiding principle, where humanity remembers its true nature and steps into its true destiny. This world is coming. It is already here, in seed form, waiting to be watered by our attention, our intention, our love. So let us water it together. Let us tend it together. Let us birth it together. The entire planet is waiting. The entire universe is watching. And you, yes, you, are the one we have been waiting for. Not a savior from outside, but the awakened consciousness within, the divine spark, the eternal flame, the love that cannot be extinguished. You are that. You have always been that, and now it is time to remember. Welcome home. Welcome to the awakening. Welcome to the greatest adventure of your life. But let me not leave you here at this threshold without giving you more, without showing you the practical steps, the daily practices, the moment-to-moment choices that will anchor this awakening into your lived experience. Because understanding is only the beginning. Integration is where the real transformation happens. You see, there is a gap that exists for most people between what they know intellectually and what they embody experientially. You can understand every word I have spoken. You can feel the truth of it resonating in your bones. And yet tomorrow morning when you wake up, when you reach for your phone, when you step back into the stream of your habitual life, all of this can fade like a dream unless you have concrete practices to anchor it. So let me give you those practices now. Let me give you the tools that will help you maintain your center, your clarity, your connection to truth, even as the world around you continues its chaotic dance. The first practice is the practice of conscious breathing. I know this sounds simple, perhaps even too simple to be powerful, but I assure you, the breath is the bridge between your conscious and unconscious mind, between your body and your spirit, between the world of form and the world of essence. When you bring awareness to your breath, when you slow it down, when you deepen it, you are literally changing your state of consciousness. You are shifting from the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response that keeps you reactive and fearful, to the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state that allows you to access your higher faculties, your intuition, your creative power. So here is what I want you to do. Several times throughout your day, especially when you notice yourself becoming stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, stop whatever you are doing and take 3 deep, conscious breaths. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Breathe out slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. And as you breathe, bring your awareness to the present moment. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the sensations in your body. Observe your thoughts without getting caught in them. This simple practice done consistently will begin to rewire your nervous system, will begin to create space between stimulus and response, will begin to give you back your power of choice. The second practice is the practice of discernment. In this age of information overload, where truth and lies are mixed together in such a confusing cocktail, you must develop your own internal compass, your own ability to sense what is true and what is false, what is aligned and what is distorted. This is not about believing everything or believing nothing. This is about developing a felt sense, a body knowing that can guide you when the mind is confused. Here is how you cultivate this. When you encounter information, whether it is a news story, a social media post, a conversation with a friend, or even these words I am speaking to you now, pause before you accept it or reject it. Bring the information into your awareness and notice how it feels in your body. Does it create expansion or contraction? Does it generate fear or empowerment? Does it divide or unite? Does it leave you feeling more alive or more deadened? Your body is an incredibly sophisticated instrument for detecting truth. It knows before your mind knows. But you have been trained to override these signals, to trust external authority over internal knowing. It is time to reverse that training. The third practice is the practice of conscious consumption. What you put into your consciousness matters just as much as what you put into your body. Every image you see, every word you read, every sound you hear is programming your subconscious mind, shaping your beliefs, influencing your emotions, directing your attention. If you are consuming a steady diet of fear, violence, division, and despair, that is what will grow in your consciousness. That is what you will create more of in your experience. So become ruthlessly selective about what you allow into your awareness. This does not mean burying your head in the sand or pretending that suffering does not exist. It means being intentional about where you place your attention, about what narratives you feed, about what frequencies you attune to. Limit your exposure to mainstream media. Curate your social media feeds to reflect the kind of world you want to create. Seek out content that inspires you, that educates you, that elevates you. Surround yourself with beauty, with truth, with love. This is not escapism. This is conscious creation. The fourth practice is the practice of gratitude. This is perhaps the most powerful frequency shifter available to you. Gratitude is not just a nice feeling or a polite gesture. It is a state of consciousness that fundamentally alters your relationship to reality. When you are in genuine gratitude, you cannot simultaneously be in fear, resentment, or victimhood. Gratitude opens the heart, expands your energy field, and aligns you with the frequency of abundance and possibility. So make this a daily practice. Every morning when you wake up, before you reach for your phone, before you start thinking about your problems or your to-do list, take a few moments to feel genuine gratitude for 3 things in your life. Not just thinking about them, but actually feeling the emotion of gratitude in your body. It could be as simple as gratitude for the breath in your lungs, for the bed you slept in, for the people you love. And every evening before you sleep, do the same thing. Reflect on your day and find 3 things, even in the midst of challenges, that you can genuinely appreciate. This practice will begin to retrain your brain to look for what is working, what is beautiful, what is good, rather than constantly scanning for threats and problems. The 5th practice is the practice of presence. Most people spend their entire lives either ruminating about the past or worrying about the future. Very few people are actually here, now, in this moment. And yet, this moment is the only place where life actually happens, where power actually exists, where choice is actually available. The past is gone. The future has not arrived. All you ever have is now. So practice bringing yourself back to the present moment again and again. When you notice your mind drifting into past regrets or future anxieties, gently bring your awareness back to what is happening right now. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What is actually true in this moment, not in your thoughts about this moment, but in the direct experience of it? This practice of presence is the foundation of all spiritual awakening. It is the doorway to peace, to clarity, to connection with your deeper self. The sixth practice is the practice of conscious speech. Words are not neutral. They are creative forces. They shape reality. Every word you speak carries a vibration, an intention, an energy that affects both you and everyone who hears it. When you speak words of complaint, criticism, gossip, or negativity, you are literally creating more of that in your experience. When you speak words of appreciation, encouragement, truth, and possibility, you are creating more of that instead. So become aware of how you speak. Notice the patterns. Do you complain frequently? Do you criticize yourself or others? Do you speak about what you do not want more than what you do want? Begin to shift this. Speak consciously. Speak intentionally. Speak words that reflect the reality you want to create, not the reality you want to escape. This does not mean being fake or suppressing your authentic feelings. It means learning to express those feelings in ways that are constructive rather than destructive, that empower rather than diminish. The seventh practice is the practice of service. One of the quickest ways to shift out of fear, depression, or self-absorption is to focus on how you can be of service to others. When you give, when you contribute, when you use your gifts and resources to make someone else's life better, you tap into a flow of energy that is infinitely renewing. You remember that you are not separate, that we are all connected, that your well-being and the well-being of others are intimately linked. So look for opportunities to serve. It does not have to be grand or dramatic. It can be as simple as offering a genuine smile to a stranger, listening deeply to a friend who is struggling, helping a neighbor with a task, or sharing your knowledge with someone who needs it. The key is to give without expectation of return, to serve from a place of genuine care rather than obligation or ego. This practice will open your heart, expand your sense of self, and connect you to the deeper purpose of your existence. Now, as you begin to implement these practices, I want to prepare you for something that many people experience, but few talk about. As you raise your consciousness, as you begin to awaken, you may find that some of your relationships become strained or even fall away. This can be painful, confusing, and can make you question whether you are on the right path. Let me assure you, this is normal. This is part of the process. Not everyone in your life is meant to accompany you on this journey. Some people are in your life for a season, to teach you something, to mirror something back to you, to help you grow in a particular way. And when that purpose is complete, when you have learned what you needed to learn, the relationship naturally completes as well. This is not about judging others as less evolved or less awake. This is simply about recognizing that we are all on our own unique paths, moving at our own pace, learning our own lessons. And sometimes those paths diverge. Sometimes what once resonated no longer does. Sometimes the frequency you are holding is no longer compatible with the frequency someone else is holding. When this happens, honor it. Bless the relationship for what it was. Release it with love and gratitude, and trust that new relationships will come. Relationships that are aligned with who you are becoming. Relationships that support your growth rather than hinder it. At the same time, do not be too quick to abandon relationships that are challenging you. Sometimes the people who trigger us the most are our greatest teachers. Sometimes the friction in a relationship is not a sign to leave, but a sign to grow, to heal, to develop capacities you have not yet developed. Discernment is key here, and the way to discern is to tune into your body, your intuition, your deeper knowing. Does this relationship feel like it is draining your life force or challenging you to expand? Does it feel toxic or transformative? Does it diminish you or call you to your highest self? These are the questions that will guide you. Now, let me speak to something else that is crucial for you to understand as you walk this path. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to have days where you forget everything I have shared with you, where you fall back into old patterns, where you react instead of respond, where you choose fear instead of love. This is not failure. This is part of being human. This is part of the learning process. The key is not to be perfect. The key is to be aware. The key is to notice when you have fallen off center and to gently, compassionately bring yourself back. No judgment, no self-criticism, just awareness and course correction. Think of it like learning to ride a bicycle. When you first start, you fall a lot. But you do not berate yourself for falling. You do not decide you are a failure and give up. You simply get back on the bike and try again. And gradually, through repetition and practice, you develop the skill, the balance, the muscle memory that allows you to ride without thinking about it. The same is true for consciousness. At first, it takes tremendous effort to stay present, to choose love, to maintain your center. But with practice, it becomes easier. It becomes more natural. It becomes who you are rather than something you have to try to do. So be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Treat yourself with the same compassion and understanding you would offer to a beloved child who is learning something new. This is essential, because if you are harsh with yourself, if you are constantly judging and criticizing yourself, you are just creating more of the very energy you are trying to transcend. Self-love is not selfish. Self-compassion is not weakness. These are the foundations of genuine transformation. You cannot hate yourself into a better version of yourself. You can only love yourself into wholeness. And as you do this inner work, as you cultivate these practices, as you raise your consciousness, you will begin to notice something remarkable. You will begin to see that the external world is responding to your internal shifts. Opportunities will appear that were not there before. People will show up who can help you in ways you could not have orchestrated. Resources will become available. Doors will open. This is not magic, though it may feel magical. This is simply the natural law of resonance, of attraction, of manifestation. As within, so without. As above, so below. The outer world is always reflecting the inner world. And when you change the inner, the outer must change as well. But here is where many people get tripped up. They start to use these principles as a way to manipulate reality, to get what they think they want, to serve their ego's agenda. And when it does not work the way they expected, when they do not manifest the car or the relationship or the money they were trying to create, they become disillusioned and decide that this is all nonsense. The truth is more nuanced. Yes, you are a creator. Yes, your consciousness shapes your reality. But you are not the only creator, and your individual consciousness is nested within a larger collective consciousness. You are co-creating with the universe, with the divine intelligence that animates all things. And sometimes what you think you want is not what your soul actually needs for its evolution. So the practice is not to try to control outcomes. The practice is to align with your highest truth, to follow your deepest joy, to offer your unique gifts, and to trust that the universe will orchestrate the details in ways that serve your highest good and the highest good of all. This requires surrender. Not the surrender of defeat or resignation, but the surrender of trust, of faith, of knowing that you are held by a loving intelligence that sees far more than your limited perspective can see. This is the dance between effort and surrender, between doing and being, between will and grace. You do your part, you show up, you take the actions that are yours to take. You cultivate your consciousness, you follow your guidance, and then you release attachment to how it all unfolds. You trust the process, you trust the timing, you trust that everything is happening for you, not to you. This is perhaps the most difficult teaching for the Western mind to grasp, because we have been so conditioned to believe that we must force, must control, must make things happen through sheer willpower. But there is another way, a way that is more aligned with the natural rhythms of life, with the flow of the Tao, with the wisdom of the feminine principle that knows how to receive, how to allow, how to trust. Both are necessary. The masculine principle of action, direction, focus, and the feminine principle of receptivity, intuition, flow. When these two are in balance within you, when you can act decisively and surrender completely, when you can hold a vision and remain unattached to outcomes, you become a powerful conduit for transformation. And this brings me to the final teaching I want to share with you today. The teaching about your unique purpose, your soul's mission, the reason you are here on this planet at this particular time. You are not here by accident. You chose to be here. Your soul, in its infinite wisdom, chose this body, this family, this culture, this moment in history, because there is something specific that only you can contribute. There is a gift that only you can give. There is a role that only you can play in the great awakening that is unfolding. And the way you discover this purpose is not by looking outside yourself, not by asking others to tell you what you should do, not by following some predetermined path that society has laid out for you. The way you discover your purpose is by going within, by listening to the whispers of your soul, by following what brings you alive, what makes you lose track of time, what feels like play rather than work. Your purpose is encoded in your joy. It is written in your passions. It is revealed in the things that break your heart and the things that fill you with wonder. Pay attention to these signals. They are not random. They are your soul's way of guiding you toward your destiny. And do not worry if your purpose does not look like what you think it should look like. Do not compare your path to anyone else's path. Do not diminish your gifts because they seem ordinary or because you think they are not important enough. Every role is essential. Every contribution matters. The person who brings light to one other person is just as important as the person who speaks to millions. What matters is not the scale of your impact, but the authenticity of your offering. What matters is that you show up fully, that you give what is yours to give, that you live in alignment with your truth. And as you do this, as you step into your purpose, as you offer your gifts to the world, you will experience a fulfillment that no amount of external success or material wealth could ever provide. You will know in the depths of your being that your life has meaning, that your existence matters, that you are part of something far greater than yourself. This is what the entire planet needs to see today. Not just the message of awakening, but the living example of awakened beings who are walking their talk, who are embodying their truth, who are creating the new world through their daily choices and actions. You are that example. You are that light. You are that hope. And I am asking you, one final time, to take this seriously, to commit fully, to stop playing small, to stop waiting for permission, to stop doubting yourself. The world needs you, not the version of you that you think you should be, not the polished, perfect, acceptable version, but the real you, the messy, authentic, fully alive you. The you that has been waiting your entire life to be seen, to be heard, to be expressed. It is time. The moment is now. The call has been issued, and you are the one who must answer. So answer. Step forward. Claim your power. Embrace your purpose. Join the awakening. And know that you are not alone. Know that there are millions of us around the world who are doing this same work, who are holding this same vision, who are committed to this same transformation. We are the ones we have been waiting for, and together we are unstoppable. And so it is.